I'm in. I need a little higher. Yeah,
Yep.
I can't hear myself.
There you go.
Yeah, a little better.
Can you?
Better,
Not me
better.
either.
More power. More power.
More power, people.
I can't hear myself. Can you turn it up a little bit? Hi, everybody. Yeah.
Hello. There
Hello.
we go.
Yeah, there we go.
What happened?
Yeah.
That was a little
It's
delay.
the Edge Radio Show. Sorry, just a little technical delay there. You know,
Not sure what's
we're
happening.
feeding off the satellite. I don't know where the satellite's going. Anyway, it's Southern California's The Edge Radio Show on award-winning KHTS. Why do I say it's award-winning? We've won every award, state, federal. The owners of this station do more good for Southern California charities. They help people. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you haven't tuned into KHTS, go to 98.1. Why do I have
12:20 a.m.
12:20 a.m. So Scott Harries and the coach. Scott Harries, a dear friend, golfing buddy, lunch buddy,
Yep.
period.
Yep.
He's in my
Sold.
top 500.
$4.99, and I'm proud of it,
baby.
man. I'm working hard.
So we've been doing this show for a number of years. Once a year, we have these two gentlemen that are, I don't know, they're the kindest, brilliant, patient. We're going to talk about, with these two guys, why it's so hard, in the first segment, why it's so hard to become successful in business. That's the first segment.
Okay.
The second segment is how do you make big money in business? Because these two guys have made big money in business. So this first segment, so our two guests today are Scott Harries and Coach Ron Tunick.
I gotcha.
You did.
Welcome,
Yeah,
sir.
welcome. Well, thank you. It's
So
nice
this
to
could be
here.
like a if you don't like business, just get off the radio station, come back. But if you like business, or you're in business, or you have a side hustle, or you have a family member, get them to tune in. Go to 98.1 FM on your radio or hometown station. You can
Right.
listen, and we have people all over the country because I've invited thousands of people to listen.
That's right. You got
I'm also
people, we got
live
people,
on Facebook, right?
right? Facebook
Ready?
Live.
Absolutely you are.
KHTS.
Facebook Live. Yeah.
Go to thehometownstation.com and you
So
can find us.
I'm so curious about the show today because I want
Right.
to draw you out.
Okay.
I really want to hear what Scott Harries has to say. So I made some points here you can look at.
Okay.
So the first point is, why is it so hard to become so successful in business? And the first point that I want you to discuss is people, I don't see them practice their craft. I don't
Right.
see people. I know you started with Goldman Sachs, and you've told me stories after story. You put in long hours early on your life.
Right.
Why do you think people just don't? And you and I are ex-athletes,
Right.
so we know about practice. I was a football player. We had double days. You were an
Right.
all-state basketball player, so I'm sure you had double days.
Yep.
We practiced.
Yeah, you
I s-
practice.
yeah.
You got to practice your craft. You got to know you got to know your game. And it's interesting because why is it so hard to be successful? It's hard to be successful, I think, because it is something that you have to do day in and day out. And unlike what the fantasy that we see on social media, that most people see, that everybody's life is like everything's great, and
People want to be entertained.
right,
They don't want to do the work.
No, yeah, and people see that, oh, so and so did this and they did that, and they go, well, why can't I do that? Why am I not doing that? And well, the reality of it is, if what you're seeing is actually true, it may be, it may not be. They are either lucky in the sense that they were born into a family where they, someone's provided that for them. I have a term for that, but I don't know if I can say it on the radio. And then there's the people that work really hard, and you have to work hard enough and dedicate yourself to what you're doing and your craft and be the best at what you do. But you're not going to see results immediately. You have to be patient, and you have to, plow through, the hard dirt, right? It's not like, it's like you go see some big, beautiful farm out in the Midwest somewhere. It's not like those crops just grew up, without any work. It's like, they cut down the trees, and then they pull out the stumps, and then they, level the land, and then they irrigate it, and then they dig it up, and
They nurture the heck out of their
yes,
land.
everything.
Every
So,
day. There's no
every
days
day.
off for a farmer.
No.
And there's no
it's-
days off for a successful person either.
No, like in my business, I'm like a financial doctor in a way, and it's like I'm on call all the time. I don't have any time off. But I like that because I like being, needed. Everybody wants to be needed, and you want to be helpful, and I love being helpful, and I love the days where, for example, I had a day yesterday where I was helping a client where, it was just a one of these. Had nothing to do with it was somewhat financial, but not really. It was like, someone came to his house, got hurt by a dog, and and this guy wants to sue him, and I've been through that several times, and unfortunately, and so we were having this conversation about, whether it was right or wrong and all these different things, and finally I was able to kind of crystallize it and just, break it down into, this is what it's going to cost you for your attorney. This is what it's going to cost you an hour to do this. But more importantly, this is what's going to cost you in worry and time if you let this go to trial. And if, even though you're right, and I believe 100% that he's right, and that he's being scammed, but there's a cost to standing up on that principle, which, I would normally do, but I just, anyway.
Well, no. It's a good story because it goes to the first thing is people. You need three things. I want to stay with your story because your story is about making important decisions versus making urgent decisions. Right. You helped that gentleman yesterday understand he needed to make an urgent decision because if he didn't, the consequences of him putting that decision off was going to be very costly.
Right.
And people don't understand that. It's a form of a procrastination because there's pain involved sometimes in making an urgent decision. So your counsel was great. It was perfect.
Right. And it was a chance to connect on a different level than just always, this is what's happening here and here, regarding markets or financial issues, but it was dealing with his personal life and how valuable is your time and how valuable is that time right now when you're at this stage of your life, and do you really want to be worrying for the next 6 months about going to trial and being deposed?
Well, I want to stay focused on why it's so hard to become successful in business today. So we start with practice. So what do you practice? You have to practice your craft. You have to you're very good at one thing. I was very good at one thing. When I was building my business, I didn't do 3 things or 10 things. You didn't either.
No. And it's interesting because the fact that I have been in this business for going on 34 years, which is crazy. And it's always changing, right? There's always new regulations, new tax laws, new estate laws, new everything. So we have to know everything, and you got to be up on it all the time, and you got to be an expert at what you do. And that's why people come to us. So when I'm doing these things and I'm working on these things, as things are changing, we have to, like you said, know our stuff. So, you're always focused on, what's moving the markets and what's the right, way to, to invest in certain environments and all those things. But you have to stay up on all of this data. So you're constantly reading, you're constantly, upgrading your software.
Well, if you have a business
internally.
and they have an association, you join the association, you get involved in your industry because you're going to meet other very successful people, more successful than you, that will help educate you, help motivate you, and help inspire you.
Right.
So what do you practice? Practice getting very, very good at what you do. Don't let that shining object. So many people have that shining object syndrome. They can't focus, and then they blame it on, I got HD or something. What is it? AD something.
HT or
something. Everybody, everybody has it.
That's true.
But you have to have a commitment. So the second thing that I see, I've been coaching business now in excess of 30 years, 26 years of really coaching clients. I have the same clients 18, 19, 20 years. Here's what I see. I want to draw you out a little bit. Scott Harries and the coach on the Edge Radio Show doing a little master class today on why it's so hard in the first segment. Why is it so hard to become successful in business? So point one, if you're taking notes, practice, practice, practice.
Right.
The second thing, and this is never talked about, sacrifice.
Right.
You sacrificed.
Oh, yeah.
I sacrificed. There was a year I worked 7 days a week, and I told my wife and my kids, if you want to live in a luxury neighborhood, you want to have a luxury life, your dad has to do these things.
Right.
And you did this. You did the same sacrifice.
Right. It's interesting. It's when I finally, once I got out of graduate school and I was trying to do what I'm doing, and initially I couldn't, just no one was hiring, right? And I kind of got a half offer, and then some things happened in Mexico with the debt and the currency and all these things in 1984, and so everything fell apart. And so I was like, well, what are you going to do? Well, I got to work. So I go to work doing something that I was overqualified for in some regards, but it was work, and I got paid a good, I was getting paid to do it, and so I did my very best. And by doing my very best and going the extra mile, someone noticed that, who was there doing something else, that guy then came back to me, offered me a job, brought me down here to California. And when I started working for him, and then I did a great job for that company, and someone else noticed that, and then that guy came to me, and that was the Goldman connection, and boom.
Wow. On that subject, I don't know. Well, let's come up with the name of that. Is Lisa listening to the show today? Because I don't know if she knows that you're a doctor. Lisa, it just came out. He wants to be a doctor. He's a doctor of finance. But here's a good example of what you're talking about. Emily, who's producing our show today, Patty's sitting right next to her. Here is the opportunity for her to learn a craft that she can have for a lifetime, and maybe get on a 100,000-watt station like I was in San Francisco.
Sure.
Get paid $1 million a year. Meet Mr. X from Silicon Valley.
Right.
And I said that to her, and she said, no, you got it wrong, Coach. I'm the one that's going to make the $1
There
billion.
you go. Now I like that.
So when you look at just what you said, you will get discovered if you. I have this saying on Clubhouse every day when I open up Clubhouse at 4:00 on Landing Big Whales. Here's my saying: just load the wagon. I don't care if the horse. You've heard it.
Yeah.
Just load the wagon. I don't care if the horse is blind. Do
Right.
the hard stuff when nobody's looking.
Right.
That's doing your homework, doing your study. Create a culture in which people notice you. You
Right.
got noticed because you did the right thing. You loaded the wagon.
Right.
You didn't know that somebody was paying attention to you.
No, I didn't know.
You did your job.
I had no idea. In fact, it was really kind of interesting because, I was, quote, the GM, right, of this facility. And we're doing this big
Did you ask customers if they wanted fries with that?
No. Can I get fries with that?
I didn't know who you worked with. I just wondered.
It was a big, it was a country club, right? And they had, this corporation was doing a corporate retreat with all, the board of directors and all the senior management. And the CEO was flying in to give a report on the stock and performance and the company and all this kind of stuff. Well, that was the big night, right? They'd been here 2 days, and we had this big dinner all ready for them. And back then, you had the video screen, the screens up so they could do their slideshow and all that. But 2 guys called in sick, and I was like,
"Wow,
dang, okay." So, but I always kept it was a red shirt. It was Wolf Creek Country Club up in Utah. And I went in, I changed my clothes, put it on. I didn't put a badge on, said GM or anything like that. I was like, no, I'm just here helping the guy. In fact, these guys.
You were loading the wagon.
Yeah, I was following the lead of what the head guys do. What do you want me to do? Pour water, do this, do that, clear tables. Well, so I did all that all night. No one paid much attention to it. But as we got to the end of the day, or the end of the evening, I'm standing there in the very back, just making sure everything is done, listening to the CEO talk about the stock and the movement and the beta and the risk and this. And I'm sitting there just going like, holy cow, like everything I learned in graduate school, like this really does, it matters. And they look at all these things. And there was a guy sitting back there who was the operations manager, Jack Frickle, who lived up here for years. And Jack walked back and introduced himself, and he says, "It looks like you're enjoying this and like you understand it." And I go, "Well, I do." He goes, "Really?" He goes, "How is that?" And I said, "Well," I said, I'm not a waiter normally. I said, I'm the GM right here, but I'm doing this job because, we just coming out of a recession. I need work. I just graduated with my MBA, blah, blah, blah." And he just looked at me like, "Wow, like you did all this, and he was so impressed with the fact that I would take so seriously my job to fill in and do that they started all of a sudden, the next day, all these guys.
But the key is you did your job
Right.
very, very well. Let's move on. The topic today is why it's so hard to become successful. We said practice was number one.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
And to that end, sacrifice, I had to do something that I wasn't really prepared to do.
Exactly.
And that was I had to move afterwards. Like I did what I needed to do there for the job, but then when the opportunity came, I had to leave, an environment where.
But you put your ego aside. You
Right.
sacrificed. You sacrificed your ego.
Right.
Can you turn my thing up a little bit, Patty?
I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on. More technology. Turn it up a little bit more. Yeah. So people struggle with what you did, which changed their life forever, and that is you put your ego aside. You did what you had to do, and you got noticed. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better. Thanks, Patty. So the next thing I want to talk about, which is really confusing to a lot of people, not to you and I, talent versus skill. You see so many talented homeless people. You see so many skilled homeless people. You see so many talented people struggling in their life. You see so many people with great skills struggling in their life. What is the difference? How do you combine the both? So let me mention to you that you and I were born with no talent, but somehow along the way, either through athletics, through something, we discovered some talent that we figured out that we could use. Now, you have a great personality. I have a personality. The other thing is somehow we found a skill. So you have to combine both. You have to combine personality or talent, talent and skill have to work together. They can't work separately.
Right. It's a package deal, right? You have to have, you are who you are, and you can't be someone you're not. And so one of the things that I learned early on, especially in the business I was in, when I went to work for Goldman, everybody seemed like, where'd you go to school? They're like Harvard, Stanford,
Utah State.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was like three of us, in the whole company maybe, and at that time, and then I'd got my MBA from an international business school, which not that many people knew, and so it was kind of intimidating, but I had to just be who I was and who the person I am, and not try to be, like some of these other guys that were, they were kind of the stuffy, or they had a chip, they were a little bit proud of they led with their credentials,
degree,
right?
Nobody,
their degrees.
Yeah, nobody cares about. What do you think your number one talent is? I know what. What do you think?
I think more than anything else, stock analysis, all these kind of things.
Talent we're talking about now, not skill.
Yeah, I think that it's my ability to talk to anybody in any economics.
You're a communicator.
Yeah, I think
you're
I communicate.
You're a people person.
Right. I think I make people feel comfortable.
This is the part that frustrates me so much when I see people who, let's say, have the higher IQ, actually have a skill, but they don't have people skills.
Right.
I hear it all the time.
I see it.
You see it.
I see it in our industry. I see it all the time. I can tell you right now, and I don't mean this to demean my team or my group or anything that I work with, but they're very, very smart people. But I have seen people in my business that hands down, are so much smarter than I am. You know, I had a brother-in-law who was unbelievably smart. He's probably one of the smartest guys I have ever met in my life. But he had an issue in being able to communicate properly and not able to put the kind of
touch
ego
people's
aside.
Hearts. Touch people's hearts.
Yeah, and put the ego aside.
Yeah.
Like he had to be right.
Yeah, he had to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah,
We don't care.
And when you're trying to solve problems for people, you know, and you work in a team environment, and when you've been on teams before, like we have, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to pack your ego away and let the meeting go the way it's going to go, or let the situation go the way it's going to go in order to land that big guy or that big client. You know, you might be the guy that got the meeting, but maybe someone else in the room is actually connecting in the right way. And if you break that, you might lose the whole deal because you wanted it to be me. And that's not the case. So,
People skills are. I'm so frustrated when I talk about this because they're not taught in high school. They're not taught. Nobody talks about people skills.
Right.
You know, we're sitting here with two young people that have great people skills. We love Patty and Emily,
Right.
and they have great people skills. Now, if they can figure out how to take their people skills, combine them with a skill set, and then here's the next thing we're going to talk about. You ready? Confidence.
Leadership.
Oh my goodness! If you don't have the self, I was coaching a lady this morning in Chicago. I love her to death, but she's lacking true self-confidence.
Right.
And we have to go to commercial. Is that what
Good,
you're saying?
good,
Let's
good.
do that, and then I'll give you a little story about confidence because you can't do anything. You can't accomplish
Right.
anything.
Confidence is
People can smell
very, very
you
important.
when you don't have that real, genuine confidence. We'll be right back on the Edge Radio Show. Emily and Patty doing our show today.
Youth workshops return to the Canyon Theater Guild. Join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting September 7th, for 10 weeks of teamwork and fun while creating theater magic. Our day class from 12:30 to 3:30 will create the fun, pixelated world of video games with Press Start, while our after-school class from 4 to 6 embarks on a swashbuckling adventure with space pirates. Class size is limited, so register today at 661-799-2702 or visit canyontheater.org.
This is Jill from the Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to our 4,655 families in the SCV community. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website at santaclaritagrocery.org or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
Step into a hot shower or slip on a warm t-shirt fresh from the dryer, and you can feel the comfort natural gas gives us every day. For over 100 years, Southern California Gas Company has provided safe, reliable natural gas service. It warms our homes, powers cleaner vehicles, and cooks our food at a fraction of the cost of other energy sources with less environmental impact, today and for decades to come. Natural gas, part of the clean energy solution. Learn more at SoCalGas.com. Search solution.
I listen to it all day, every day.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me. I can be centerfield.
All right. We're back. Once a year.
Center field.
Yeah, center
Please,
field.
please.
Scott Harries and the coach on the Edge Radio Show are an award-winning KHTS 98.1 FM, 1220 AM, award-winning KHTS.
The home station.
No, hometown station.
Hometownstation.com.
That's where you
Please.
can listen live.
Facebook Live.
And then I'm on Facebook Live right now, right, Penny?
Yes, you are.
Absolutely. And I tagged you, Coach.
Yeah, boy.
There you go.
So the first segment was, why is it so hard to be successful in business today? We talked about practice. We talked about sacrifice. And the last thing before we move on to the next segment, how to make big money in business today. We're going to get into that. So this last point, and we have like 20 other points, but maybe we'll do this in another month or two. The last point, the one thing that you and I both have is self-confidence. People see it in both of us. And it's learned. It's not something you're born with.
Right.
You have to practice believing in yourself.
Right. I think that's true. I think part of what, one of the other things we talked about in the other segment was, communication skills. And when you learn how to communicate, and it's not necessarily born. Some people are born communicators, right? They just get along well with people. They can, but you still have to learn certain skills. You have to learn, how to approach people and how to really listen. That's the key to success, is not what you say and how, some people say, oh, it's like I got to be, slick, and I got to be able to speak fast and do this. No, like, me, I'm slow talking, right? Take a long time to tell a story. I'm not that great at it, really, but I listen and I care. And that comes across to people when you really care about them and you're focused on what it is they just said. Like, how like I take notes and everything we do? When I'm in a meeting, I take all these notes and then I go back and then I'll send them back after the meeting. I send them back an email that says, it was great to see you. It was fun. We had this, blah, blah, blah. By the way, this is what we talked about. This is what we're going to do. Here's the open items. Let me, da-da-da-da-da.
It's, when I
just,
see, like you're taking notes right now, it shows me you care.
Right.
So when somebody else sees you taking notes, that shows them that you care. But back to self-confidence.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, can I just add on to that point, the communication?
Can you make it quick?
Yes. When you communicate, when you learn how to communicate, you learn not to be afraid of people, and you learn to be able to project yourself and say what you're going to say and do what you're going to do without fear, because you know how to communicate. And that, to me, was something that, my mom kind of taught me that, and I used to practice certain things, in the mirror and talk, and, and
me too.
And then athletics taught me a level of leadership. And I learned that, being a leader on a team. And then I learned to be a leader in my own family, because I was the middle child, so I was the baby brother to two olders, but I was the big brother to two youngers, so I got both sides of it. And my mom expected a lot out of me for my brother and sister. And you learn that leadership. So communicating, confidence, and leadership, that all goes together when you're trying to be successful.
It's all tied in, but you and I were blessed. Not everybody was blessed to have the athletic careers that we had.
That's right.
But what we learned was to trust ourselves, because you played basketball, I played football.
Right.
I also played baseball.
Right.
But in college, both of us. But you have to trust yourself. When you're on that floor of four other players and they're throwing you the ball, and you have to you have to trust yourself.
Right.
So your self-talk is critical.
It is. It's like, are you the kind of guy that wanted the ball when there's 2 seconds left and you're down by one and you got the last shot, or were you looking to pass it?
I always wanted the ball.
And I wanted the ball in my hands.
Yeah, but you were a guard. I was a forward. Nobody would give me the ball. But when you look at your self-talk, people say, all right, Coach, how do I learn self-talk? First of all, there's so many books. When you and I were growing up, there was no internet. We had to go to the World Book Encyclopedia, or we had to go to our college library.
Or the local library.
There are books out there like Think and Grow Rich. You've heard me talk about that.
Absolutely.
Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant.
Right.
These books tell you exactly how the brain works.
Right.
And you have to learn how the brain works so that you learn your self-talk. If you beat yourself up every day and say, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, you're never going to accomplish anything. Your belief system in yourself is number one. If you don't trust yourself, you know what happens? Other people don't trust you.
That's right. And especially in the business that I'm in, any
doctor,
business,
finance.
Yeah, anything that really, regardless of the business you're in, if you want to be successful at it, people are going to do business with you for, typically 3 reasons. One, and first and foremost, they like you, they trust you, and then 3, you're relatively good at what you do. And I say relatively, meaning that you're in that higher echelon, hopefully, right? And that's why they'll do business. But they do business with you not because I can throw up the best performance over a 20-year period. It's because I can, because they trust me and they like me. And then when they, talk to, if they want a referral or someone that they talk to, they're talking to people that have been with me for 25 plus years. That says something to them when you hand them a list of people they can talk to that have been with you that long. Because if they've been with you that long, they trust you.
But it goes back, you're saying everything that is absolutely important for people to listen to, but it goes back to people skills. It goes back, you hire people that you like.
Right.
You do business with people you like. You promote people you like. And here's the hidden gem. If your fellow employees don't like you, everybody finds out.
Right.
And you know who finds out? The boss.
Right.
You don't promote people that your fellow employees or associates don't care for.
Right.
You don't happen. All right.
No.
Let's change.
Okay. All right.
Maybe there's so many things that
we
want to
go
get
on that topic forever.
Yeah. Maybe in a month or two we'll come back and do this master class. It's the Edge Radio Show.
You want me to ask you questions now?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Scott Harries and the coach. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
So this subject is, in fact, if you can come in my room Friday and be my special guest.
Yeah, I can.
Friday at 4:00.
Okay.
Will you be my special guest?
I will.
Landing big whales on Clubhouse. This subject is probably asked. I've been coaching businesses, a platform speaker. I've done over maybe 300 speeches, been paid big money by big corporations. And I'm asked all the time, how do you make big money in business? So let me challenge you.
Okay.
I wrote a couple things down here
Okay.
in prep for our show. So number one is if you want to make big money, you have to have a product that pays you a handsome fee or a handsome commission or a handsome return on your time. I don't get people, they're opening up these little side hustles or these little stores, and I ask them, well, how much are you making per product? $3, $4, $5. How about selling an air conditioning system where you can make $3,000 or the business that you're in or the business that I was in?
Right.
You have to have a product that's going to return you a significant investment on your skill, your talent, and your time, right?
Right. It's interesting because, a lot of people ask me all the time, like, why did you go into the business you went into? And I said, well, because it was exciting. It was something that drove me. It motivated me, all of these things. And they go, well, a lot of people tell me in your business they go into it because, you can make a lot of money. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, you can make a lot of money as an investor or as an advisor and do that kind of thing. But I said I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on finding something that really kept my attention, right? That's something that made me feel like I was on the floor. And I use the expression, gentlemen, the ball's going up, right? When you stepped into the center circle, jump center for the game for basketball. When I went on the trading floor for the very first time at my first visit to Goldman, when I got invited to go there, the energy on that floor and watching people and watching what was happening, the way they were, it felt like it was like, okay, this is the NBA of the financial world, right? And that's where I want to be. And that's where I went, and that's where I've stayed for 35 years. But it motivates me every time I step on the floor and the market opens.
And you're still motivated. I know, I don't want to say on the air, but I know a client that you just closed and put a big smile on your face. And the point is, if you want to make big money, you have to represent a product that gives you a return. Okay, so think about your product. You're not going to make big money making $5 unless you're Procter & Gamble.
Well, it's like I tell people all the time in our business, there's different groups of all kinds of financial advisors out there, right? And they deal with people that, that want to invest $25,000 or $250,000 or $2.5 million, right? Takes the same amount of time and energy, right, to someone who's going to invest $25 million, $250 million, $2.5 billion, right? That it does.
But if you don't have the self-confidence and the trust in yourself to communicate with that client versus the little guy, you're not going to make it. All right.
So you got to think. So in order to make big money, though,
you got to be where the product is.
You got to have a good product, and you got to have a good service or a good product, all that kind of stuff. But you got to think big. You got to believe big, and you got to believe you can do it. And if you're only motivated by the dollar and making the money, that's not going to do it.
It's never been about money. Never been about money. It's always about.
It's always the opposite. It's about doing a good job.
Giving back, giving value.
Right.
You have to create value. All right. You must have
value.
been looking at my notes.
No, I didn't.
My second thing was, you better have big creative ideas. You just said that.
Funny.
You better have, right?
Yeah,
you've got to have. You've got to right. You've got to think big creative ideas. You've got to be the smartest person because if you're talking to a client, if somebody's talking to you, and I know you get hustled all the time, they better be able to answer your questions.
Right.
They better make you curious about them. And they better have an idea that can solve your pain, solve your problem, right?
Right.
If they don't have a big idea, you don't need them.
Right.
Why do you need them?
Right. If they haven't got a solution, then it's not something that you want to get involved in. And that's another that's kind of a backdoor into what we were talking about, like being successful and making money is, we talked about staying focused on what you do and be in tradecraft, right? Practice what you do, but then stay focused on it, because the times that I've, made mistakes is when I've taken something that might be a hobby or a passion or something like that and said, oh, that'd be fun to do that. And someone said, well, we could do a business out of this and that. And every time I've done one of those.
Well, that's the shiny object syndrome we were talking about in the first
Every time
segment.
I've done one of those, it might have been fun. It might have been great. It might have met some nice people, but I never made money at it.
So I had the shiny object syndrome when I was young. I owned a bunch of businesses, and after I had one conversation 25 years ago with Larry Shear, changed my life forever. So that's why we do this show. One idea that we share with you, one phrase, one something, it could change your life. That's why we do this show. We don't make any money doing this show. We do it as a community service.
Yeah, we're just trying to, give back and mentor those that are trying to be better at what they do. And it not necessarily have to be business and making money. It's about being a better person, giving back to your community, giving back to your children, to your spouse, to your partner, all of those things.
This show's gone so fast. It's crazy. I can't believe we only have 7 or 8 minutes left. We're going to go to break. So when we come back, here's the tease. If you want to make big money, you have to have something, and Scott and I will tell you what you have to have. We'll be right back on the Edge Radio Show. Scott Harries and the coach, Coach Ron Tunick. Emily's running the board today, and she's got her coach right beside her, our pal, Mr. Patty. Be right back.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
We bring on the fun at the Harvest Festival Original Art and Craft Show with a colossal collection of handmade art and crafts just for you. 3 days to shop over 24,000 original works. Enjoy live entertainment, specialty foods, prizes, and a kids zone. The biggest and the best for over 40 years, the Harvest Festival. This Friday through Sunday at the Ventura County Fairgrounds.
Facey knows life gets busy. Let us go to work for you in the Santa Clarita Valley. We have 34 primary care physicians and 55 specialty doctors in 4 offices. And Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS with some extended hour appointments available. We are Facey Medical Group. Let us go to work for you today. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me. I can be Cynthia.
All right, here we are.
All right.
Back. This
Back to
hour's
the
gone
Edge
so
Radio
fast, so
Show.
we've got about 9 minutes left. So we'll do this in a couple of weeks. I know you've been texting and calling in. We don't take calls anymore. Scott Harries and the coach, we've been doing this Edge Radio Show for a few years now. So rarely do Scott and I just do the show. We always have great guests, which this year, my God, we've had some of the greatest guests we've ever had.
Oh,
in
we have.
2021.
Well,
Unbelievable.
yeah, and just a shout out to Dave Krieger. If Dave's out there in Spokane, DMK Productions, he's a terrific guy. He was on our show, and then I went to Spokane for business, and
we gotta have him back.
and
He's
we
brilliant.
had breakfast
He's
on.
brilliant.
And he's brilliant. And he's the nicest guy, and he gave Coach and I his book.
I'm going to read it cover to cover.
I am
we'll
too.
compare notes.
Yeah,
I'm going to
okay.
read it. Real quick, you're going to be my special guest Friday for 2 hours on landing big whales.
Put it in the
Go to
calendar
Clubhouse. Put it in your calendar. Clubhouse, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Pacific Standard Time. You'll be my very special guest. And we're going to do the same subject.
Okay.
Because I want to draw you out. We have hundreds of people on Clubhouse, thousands actually, that listen. All right,
okay.
So we're going to run out of time. We've got 8 minutes left. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to make big money in business, we said the first thing you do is you got to have a product that'll return you investment, okay? You can't sell a product that's going to make you $3 every time you sell it. It's not going to work unless you're Procter & Gamble or Apple or somebody.
Yep. Unless you're selling,
and then you better have big creative ideas. Yeah, millions of them. Then you better have big creative ideas. You better be able to solve problems. You got to get creative, because if you're talking to a potential whale, he's only going to be interested if you can solve his problem. The third thing. Here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You better put a team together today, a team of experts. So if you have a small business, you can hire people on a part-time basis. There's all these services. You need a CPA, you need an attorney, you need an estate plan. You need people that know their craft, because if you're talking to a whale and you personally can't solve the problem because it's outside of your realm of expertise, how important is team, Scott Harris?
Team is what they say. There's no I in team, right? So
not my team.
Yeah, not mine. And so you have to have a team of experts, because for example, many industries, right? Whether it's financial industry or insurance or real estate or whatever it might be, you have to be a generalist and know a lot about a lot of things that are going on in that business. And then there might be an area where you're an expert.
A gap.
But you need people who are experts in all these other areas that come together for success in whatever you're doing. So in my business, it's like, we need estate planning attorneys. We need great CPAs. We need people that are experts in single stock risk management. We need people that are great at portfolio analysis, but measuring the risk, right? There's just so many things that go on. So in putting a team together, you need to, you have to have people that you absolutely trust, right? Your team's you just can't do this willy-nilly. You've got to really focus.
That's hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah,
hard.
That's another subject.
Right.
I want to say that for 2 or 3 weeks.
But you gotta have a team you trust. You gotta have people that you can allow yourself to say, hey, in this particular situation, I'm not going to be I'm not leading the parade. My partner's going to lead the parade. My team, and I'm going to be the guy that backs up, and that happens. And when you start doing those kinds of things, then people, they believe in you and the people around you, and they trust those people around you, because if they trust you and you're working with these people and they're part of your team, then they're going to trust them that you've done the due diligence and that they know.
Boy, you just hit it.
Right? That they know that these people know what they're doing.
When we come back in 2 or 3 weeks and do another master class, there's so many things you just said. Trust. It takes, do you know it takes a year to build trust? It takes 20 years to build wealth. People, where do you learn this?
Right.
You learn it at the Edge Radio Show.
Yeah.
You come back in a couple of weeks.
You don't learn it in school.
No, you don't. Okay, I've never asked you this question. I'm so curious. How many minutes
We got
left?
about 5, I think.
5 minutes.
Okay.
So here's the question.
All right.
I'm so curious. Never asked you this. You deal, and we never give names out, with the wealthiest, the most successful people in the world. And not only the United States, but the world. What makes them different? Why have they achieved so much success?
Wow.
And here, and let me put an explanation here. If you're in business, you measure success about how much money you make. It's that cut and dry. It's that black and white. I hate to say it. It's that craps.
Yeah.
So what is it about these billionaires? That's who you work with. What makes them different?
Well, first and foremost, the thing that I would say, because I think sometimes, when people see people on TV or hear interviews or read an opinion piece about someone, your opinion can be shaped by someone else, right? And so when you know these people and you see this, you see what happens, you see their character being assassinated or you see it being puffed up. But they're normal people just like you and I. And they put their pants on, one leg at a time, and they're, but they either have come up with a product, or a way of doing things, whether it's a business or a service or something, right? But they are they are so smart, right, in what they do. So whether it's a service or it's a product, they are tireless in their pursuit for excellence. Tireless. I mean, they just work so hard and they're so focused on excellence. And whether it's a service or it's a product. And then challenges, right, or obstacles, they don't look at them as obstacles. I said it backwards. I said obstacles, challenge. They look at it as opportunities. Those challenges and obstacles are opportunities because they know if they can solve it, they're on to the next level and they're way ahead of their competition. And that's how they see things.
Wow. No days off. No days off. My wife has said to me many, many years, and I'm sure Lisa said to you, why are you so obsessed? Because you have to, you use the word tirelessly.
Yeah.
Every single person, and John Ranty,
right,
and other people we know, they're still working. They love what they do. And I love your word better than being obsessed. They work tirelessly,
right,
because they're so committed with their passion to make a difference in the world.
Right, and
isn't that it?
Yeah, it is. And many of these people are trying to do that. They have a passion to better humanity, or to leave this world a better place and to make people's lives better. And once they realize they have a certain talent or ability, then they tend to feel like it's their, some don't, but many do feel that they have a responsibility to use that talent and ability for the betterment of mankind, which I think is great.
You do too. Our show is ending. His name is Scott Harries. Look him up. You can Google his name. You can Google me, Coach Ron Tunick. You do that for our community. You are truly a community leader.
Well, you're
in
very
Santa
kind.
Clarita. No,
it's
true.
You are too. I mean, if it wasn't for you reaching out to me, hey, you with the
voice.
Hey, you with the voice. Who are you? Why are you not
Patty,
on the radio?
That's how it happened. We're both standing up.
I know. I remember
this. True story. Yeah.
It's a true story.
Yeah, and he had his back to me.
Yeah.
And I hear this incredible voice, and I said, "Who are you, man?"
So I turned around and I said, "Well, I'm Scott Harries, and who are you?" And he told me, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I was going to go play golf." And he goes, "Let's have lunch." And I was like, "All right, I'd rather go have lunch than go hit golf balls."
These billionaires. Do they have? We talked about the number one thing was people skills.
Yeah.
Did they all have people skills?
Not all of them do in their same way that maybe you and I would think from a sales perspective, But as a leader in their organization, sometimes it's not what you say, it's what you do. And a lot of these guys lead by what they do, right? And how they do it in the pursuit of excellence. And others, have both of those skill sets. And some are, somewhere in between. But, it's interesting because some guys are super, super dynamic and other guys aren't as dynamic as you might think. But they are brilliant. They're really very, very smart people. And they're terrific people. And you know what? In the media, they get a lot of crap, right? Because people think, oh, they make so much and do this, but when you look at how hard they work and the things and the risks they took and the things they've done, that's what capitalism is.
Well, I'm honored to call you a friend. I'm honored to be on radio with you. The Edge Radio Show, noon on Tuesdays. We'll see you next week. Bless you, everybody. Drive safe, no drinking and driving, and no texting and driving.
Absolutely.
See you next week. Thanks,
Edge Radio
Emily.
Show.
Thank you, Emily. Great job.
Bye-bye.